your favourite? How did you get? When will I be remembered? Was it ever? Where did all go? Why do we know? Oh, forget it. Soren, Bowie, Daniel O'Brien, two best friends and comedy writers. If there's an answer, they're gonna find it. I think you'll have a great time here. I think you'll have a great time here.
So, hello again and welcome to another episode of Quick Question with Soren and Daniel, the podcast where two best friends and comedy writers ask each other questions and give each other answers. I am one half of that podcast, author of How to Fight Presidents, senior writer for Last Week Tonight, and scofflaw Daniel O'Brien, joined as always by the straight edge Soren Bowie. Soren, say hello.
What's up, everybody? I'm Soren Bowie, and I'm, for the purposes of this episode, straight edge. What's scofflaw?
You know what scofflaw means? Oh, it's like you scoff at the law. Like
Is
you're
that a real
no good Nick. You know what's occurring to me? That this is a word I learned for the first time years ago from Michael Swaim, which it's always touch and go if that's a thing that he made up,
Yeah.
or if it's like, no, I read it in a 17th century book somewhere.
That's
no,
true.
it's a real thing. A
He's
person who flouts the law, especially by failing to comply with a law that is difficult to enforce effectively.
That's just like a step dorkier than ne'er-do-well, and ne'er-do-well's pretty bad. Scofflaw is such a funny word.
It is. I think because it has the built-in definition, as I just gave to you, as Michael gave to me many years ago. You scoff at the law.
But also just the sound of it and everything, like the shape my mouth makes when I make it and everything. It's such the opposite of like a dangerous person.
Yeah.
Thanks to Rocket Money for supporting Quick Question. Rocket Money will quickly and easily identify your subscriptions for you so you can stop paying for the ones that you don't want. Stop throwing your money away. Cancel unwanted subscriptions and manage your expenses the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/QQ. All right, you're a scofflaw. Did you do something?
I got pulled over today.
Oh, Dan!
Yeah.
Okay.
I do need to, like, this should be, we've talked about this on the podcast before, just wanted to front load this with caveats that insofar as I could be aware of my own blind spots, I do feel like my white privilege is never more clearly on display than when I'm thinking or talking about run-ins with police officers. That's why it's not a fun topic to talk about. Decades ago, it was like a fun icebreaker thing to talk about, to swap stories about getting pulled over in high school. But there's too much information now. We've seen how getting stopped by a cop for what is allegedly a routine traffic stop has resulted in people getting fully murdered because of their skin color. So it's like I don't want to spend too much time talking about how easy it is to be white when you're getting pulled over by cops because it's such a world's different experience. But that was mine this morning. Just getting.
I found with you is that while you are a pretty good kid, I'd say a good apple. You do have this weird hatred, ire for the authority. In a way that was like really surprising to me, that you are, when there is somebody who is clearly supposed to be in a position of authority, you will subtly try to challenge that at every single turn.
That's very well observed. I love rules. I'm a big fan of rules and structure. I don't like authority figures telling me what to do. And them feeling that power, because I think it's rules are incorruptible, but people are, I guess, is what I thought as a child.
We did that episode of After Hours where about police officers, and when I was writing that, I wanted you to be the character who was like really hated the law, like hated police officers, and then it just, because of the way it was going to shake out with the arguments, I was like, he can't be that, because it was so on the nose for you. I had to make it Katie instead. But like,
I think Katie is a more interesting choice, and I also feel like based on the character I played in After Hours and like just what I look like and represent, it's it's harder. It's a harder buy-in for me to be as anti-authoritarian as I actually quietly am in real life.
Yeah, it is. I was blown away by it when the first time I saw it. I was like, whoa.
I do think a lot of it comes from my grandmother, who worked as secretary for the chief of police for years, like my entire life. She hated cops. She had just, I mean, like, she loved her coworkers and everyone loved her there and they treated her great. And like, it was whenever I ran into a cop, for whatever reason I ran into cops and I would mention her name, they would light up. So it's like a good relationship. But I think she had just seen too much of like the bullshit and the bureaucracy and cops getting in their own way and cops getting in citizens' ways that she was just like on a dime mad when she saw a cop somewhere out in the world.
Man. Okay, so paint this picture for me.
Yeah,
you're flying, right? Your front wheels are off the ground.
No.
Oh, okay.
It was like a confusing light situation where there's like a stoplight and train tracks and another stoplight on the other side of that train tracks. So these stoplights are in lockstep. One would never be green when the other was red. So I assumed they were essentially the same situation, even though I was stopped at the front one and you could turn right at that one, but that was like turning right basically into a train station, which I didn't want to do. So I hung out in that lane, and when the lights turned red, I went straight through it over the train tracks and turned right at the next light, which was maybe 10 yards away from the initial light. Then I got pulled over maybe a minute after that and like truly had no idea what I had done at that point. That was a right turn only light. Where I was. I had no idea. And
emotionally,
I
are you
like,
just feeling like great?
Because
like you're like so self-righteous?
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. And I'm also thinking about like the first time I'd been pulled over when I was 17 or 18 years old and was definitely speeding and was also like, you know, I didn't think my life was going to be over, but I did think like, I am fucked. My parents are going to find out that I got pulled over because the cops are going to call my mom or my grandma. Yeah. And I don't know if I can afford a speeding ticket. I don't know what points are going to do for my license. But now as a 38-year-old person, when I get pulled over and I have no idea what I did, and I'm just like, this is going to be fine. There's no way this is like horrible. It was either a mistake of this poor cop or it's a mistake that I made that I can pay for easily,
right?
And because I'm very lucky, but I'm just sitting there waiting for the cop to show up, thinking like honestly, genuinely curious what it could be.
Yeah,
because I had just come from getting my car's oil changed and tires rotated, so I thought like, oh, maybe there's like something dangling off the back of my car. I know because of the person that I am that there is. This is gonna sound impossible. A 0% chance that I was speeding. I am never speeding. So like even if I didn't know what the exact speed limit was, like at the time, if the cop pulled me over and said, "How fast? Do you know how fast you were going, or what the speed limit is?" It's like, no, I don't, but I'm positive I was coloring within the lines. Yes. No matter what, like it's just what my body does.
I've driven with you before. It's a nightmare.
So I was waiting on the cop who is. It's interesting. He's 14 years old because that's how they make cops now. He was like, you know, you went straight on a right turn only, and I was like, really? Crazy. He's like, yeah, and I gave my license, registration, and insurance, and he was like, I'm just gonna check this real quick, but like, is your license good? It's like, yeah, it's great, actually.
Good. Look at it, man. It's fucking awesome.
It's awesome.
Perfect shape. It's been sitting in my wallet my whole life.
Look at the guy on it. He fucking rules. Look how chill he is.
See the little bubble there that says donor? Do you have any idea what that means?
And he was like, do you have any points on your license? I said, no. He's like, have you ever gotten a ticket before? And I said, oh yeah, years ago. And he goes, cool. And he goes back to his car and cool. I don't know why. And he doesn't give me a ticket. This is like, again, like cringy stories to tell when I have too much information, and I'm very aware of how much scarier a situation like this is for a person who is not me. Not only scarier, but even the fact that like I'm not getting a ticket for a thing I did wrong, and I don't know that everyone else is afforded that kind of luxury. And on top of like not getting a ticket for the thing I did wrong, because I'd given him my license and registration, my glove compartment was open, and the license plates for the front of my car were in the glove compartment. And so he saw that. After he's giving my license back and saying, "You're free to go, you're fine, just, don't do that again. And here's all your stuff." And he sees the license plate and he goes, "Also, just so you know, you have to put that on the front of your car." And again, the same way as I reacted when I broke the first law, I go, "Oh, really? Crazy." And he's like, "Yeah,
Cool.
all right, bye." And then he left. Crucially aware of what whiteness affords me in these situations. It's tempting when you're telling your own story and self mythologizing to pretend that white privilege doesn't exist or any of our blind spot privileges don't exist. But like, this is the clearest, shiniest. I get pulled over for a thing I did wrong, and I am not concerned that anything is going to go wrong for me at all.
So you didn't give him any lip at all. You were just like, you were straight with him. You were, and did you smile at him and like treat him like a human being?
I didn't smile at him. No.
Okay.
Well, I guess
Good.
I treated him like a human being. I wasn't like, "How you doing today, buddy? Did you see the Oscars last night?"
Yeah, and there is like a weird. So I don't even remember where I saw it. Somewhere on the internet, in my doom scrolling, where someone was like, "There are two different types of respect," and this is never more apparent to me than with cops, which is one type of respect is like, "I will show you respect," and that means like, "I will treat you like a human," and the other person is saying, "I will show you respect when you show me respect," and they mean, "You will treat me like an authority."
Right.
And so like respect can mean two very different things. And like, so if you don't treat them like an authority, they won't treat you like a human. And that is never more clear than like with cops. I'm the opposite of you. I am every time that I'm dealt where I'm forced to interact with somebody who represents the law or has some sort of like, they're in a position to get me in trouble, I show nothing but deference. I am the kindest, sweetest, gentlest person because I'm so scared all the time. There was even that time police came to my house and tackled me.
Yeah.
And for anyone who doesn't know, I wrote a column a while about.
I don't think you need to clarify.
About how at like 2 a.m, police came to my door at my apartment long ago. And shined a flashlight through the keyhole so I couldn't see who it was. So we just didn't even answer the door. They didn't announce police. We just stayed in the house. And then my wife looked through the blinds and they saw the blinds move because clearly like flashlights went to the blinds. And I was like, fuck, whoever it is out there knows we're here. Please go hide in the closet, Colleen. And then I went and opened the door. And the minute I opened the door, I got tackled. And then they got pulled out into the hallway and handcuffed. Turns out it was a big mistake. But they didn't like the fact that someone was home and wasn't answering the door. That didn't feel good to them. So I even in that circumstance where like I was wronged and again wronged for a white guy, like this could have gone way worse for a lot of other people.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And it went only this bad for me. Even in that circumstance, like as soon as they took the handcuffs off and I look at the guy who had me handcuffed and I see that his name tag is a little askew and he's a little sweaty, I was like, this poor guy was so scared because he didn't know what he was walking into. And didn't even, by the time they left and everything, I didn't even think about it until afterwards. I was like, you know what? I don't think that they said that they were sorry.
Man, those are different reactions. I mean, like I didn't give this cop any lip. I was, when I was much younger, so much more defiant and prickish. But this guy, as soon as he came, there was no good morning for me or anything. My eyes immediately from some kind of internet training was like, look at his name tag and memorize that name tag. Cause there's no like badge number on display. So I'm just like, look at his name tag and like have it in my brain for when this fucking guy does something.
Yeah. Did you consider recording?
No, I didn't consider doing that because that's obnoxious.
Yeah. That's a pretty good way to get a ticket.
Yeah. But I did. It's fun because I had not thought about my own anti-authority streak until you brought it up on this podcast. But the epilogue to this particular cop morning that I had is I drove from my car tune up to the car wash, and I get my car washed every 2 weeks because I heard on a podcast, this one, that's what you're supposed to do because you told me that, and this is where I get my information from. So I learned on the podcast to get my car washed every 2 weeks, and every time I've gone to this car wash, which again is quite often, there's been at least one cop getting their car washed, and today was no exception. And this time I went to the guy at the counter who I'm friendly with at this point. I was like, let me ask you something. Every time I'm here, there's a cop getting their car washed. Do they get it for free? And the guy was just like, yeah. I was like, okay. And immediately I'm mad. I just got away with doing 2 functionally illegal things scot-free. And immediately I'm like, these fucking cops think they can get whatever they want and do whatever they want. They're just you got money. You're one of the last jobs with a pension, you fucking asshole. And you're going to get your free car washes? I'm never putting that goddamn license plate on.
Okay, so that's another question I have for you is you don't have your license plate on. Do you know that where you are, there's cameras in all of like the pay lanes? Like the lanes. Yeah. Okay, is that why you don't have your...
No, I don't have the front license plate on because I think it looks stupid. I really like the look of my car. I think it looks cool. And I think the license plates are dumb. And when I got the license plates put on at the dealership, I asked, do I have to put it on the front? And they said no. So I was like, that's great. And then I told my dad that story. And then he immediately texted me an article that said the law requires you to put license plates on the front of your car. I was like, well, I'm going to carry on doing what I'm doing until a police officer tells me to put my license plates on. Well. And Soren...
that happened.
It turns out I'm a liar.
If you think you have a lot of subscriptions and you can't remember all of them, well, you might also be a parent. This will be my new Jeff Foxworthy routine. You might be a parent if you've got a bunch of subscriptions you don't recognize. Every time that my son goes into a new class, I got to get a new type of app. I have to have a new subscription to some sort of math learning gaming system. There's a lot of different programs that the schools use and rely on me to also get a subscription for. And in the end, I end up with subscriptions to things that I don't even know what they are. I think to myself, why am I being billed for something called Clever? What is that? Well, Rocket Money helps me. Rocket Money helps me find all of those old subscriptions to gaming services he no longer uses because he knows Edition, presumably by now. And I don't need them anymore, and I would like to cancel them. Well, thank you, Rocket Money. Rocket Money helps me save money, and it seemed like my bank account was just stuck, like I was just paying these. I gave Rocket Money a try, and it turns out I had a bunch of subscriptions I was paying for that I had completely forgotten about. Rocket Money helped me cancel some of them, and now I'm finally starting to see my account balance going up. I've always struggled finding time to manage my finances. It's just this looming thing that I don't want to think about. Looking at my bank account fills me with anxiety. It's just how I live my life. I don't want to go in there. I don't bother it. It doesn't bother me. Frankly, it's none of my business. Thankfully, Rocket Money helped me manage a lot of the stuff that I was paying for and didn't need to pay for anymore. I use Rocket Money, and it does all of that for me. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Rocket Money will even try to negotiate lower bills for you by up to 20%. All you have to do is submit a picture of your bill, and Rocket Money takes care of the rest. They'll deal with the customer service for you. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using the app's features. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/QQ. That's rocketmoney.com/QQ. rocketmoney.com/QQ. So in California, I had a neighbor who, in California, you don't have to have a license plate on your car at all.
That can't be true.
It's true. You don't need a license plate, any license plate. You're allowed to drive around without a license plate for like a certain amount of time. If you get pulled over for it, you have to fix it in a certain amount of time, and they've got you in the system now, and then you've got to do it. But I had a neighbor who wouldn't put a license plate on his car because he loved using those types of lanes. And also at the intersections where it takes a picture of your car if you go through a red light. He didn't ever want his car on the grid, you know?
Yeah.
And so he had a license plate for it. It was registered. He just never put them on the car. And then every time that he would like get pulled over and stuff, cost me like, you got to put the plates on. And he'd be like, okay. And he just wouldn't do it. And it wasn't like they were logging him or anything. He just figured out this hole in the system where he was like driving in the pay lanes for free and stuff. I would never had the courage to do that.
Yeah.
There's no way I would do that. But I wanted to quickly tell you a story that you just reminded me of, and I can't believe I didn't bring it up on the podcast. I do this thing on my street. My street's a dead-end street, and people come down my street a lot thinking they can get through to the other road, and they can't. And then they get angry, and they drive back up. They come flying down our road, and then they go a little faster at the other direction. And because I'm now, I guess my father, I will see a car come out my window and like flying down, and I know that I've got about 30 seconds before they're going to come back up. And I'm like, great. And I get excited. I put my shoes on. I go out the door and I go wait for them. And when they come back, I charge their car a little, not in front, like at their side door, like as they're flying up. And I'm like, hey, slow down. And like using my hands to like signal, like slow down.
Yeah, I'm my father's son, so I love telling cars to slow down. I'll do that, like just like hold your hand out horizontally and like ease it down a few times.
Yes, yeah,
it's
that's
like, hey,
both of them.
Hey,
I use both, and I just do
slow.
like a hey, I'm under arrest, hands up, and then down, like. And I did this recently. Saw a car come flying, like one of the fastest ones I'd seen, and I was like, yes. And went outside, waited for them to come back up. They came back up even faster than I anticipated. It's like when I charged the door to say, hey, slow down. It took me a while to register.
As you're stumbling out of your, like, one shoe on, one shoe off.
I have only one pajama leg in my pajamas.
Got your whistle around your neck.
Struggling to get my reflective vest on. It took me a while to register that there were 3 people in the car. All of them were wearing not like COVID masks, real masks. One of them was wearing a ski mask. The other 2 had on thermal masks, which means that, just the eyes are visible, but there's no cloth in between the eyes like a normal ski mask you would expect. Right. They're all wearing these. And their car does not have any plates on it. And there's clearly like these gentlemen have a place to be. Yeah. And immediately I'm like, this was such a dumb thing for me to have done. What am I doing?
It's one of those things that you do when it suddenly becomes scary and you realize, oh, this was always a dumb thing for me to do. Yeah. It's always been a risk every time I've done it. I just didn't know until right now. Now, fortunately, they didn't do anything. Like they didn't stop or anything, but then they did slow down. But like I walked back into my house and I was like, I can never do this again. That was insane. Like that was so dangerous. And I think that probably they did slow down because they were like, let's not make any more noise. Like let's just like keep this low profile. But it was like a movie. It was like I come out and there's these guys who are clearly on their way to commit a crime or have just committed a crime. Maybe this car is stolen. I don't know. But like they go past me and they all look at me like, what the fuck? Yeah. I was like, I don't know either. This was a bad idea. I'm imagining that those are guys who like thought they had this whole thing planned out, and then they're realizing their driver didn't map the route, and now they're going down a cul-de-sac, and now they see just some random authoritative-looking guy telling them to slow down, and they do slow down, and then they get to the end of the street, and they're like, I don't think crime is for us, guys. I think we're lucky that the bank was closed on Sundays. We should have checked in advance, but like this is probably a blessing. Just drop me back off.
They were pretty young too. I think that you still have that voice of authority that like it's just innate that kids will listen to. Like they look like they're probably like 16 or 17. And I do it occasionally when I'm like coaching baseball too. And my kids are on the base path. Like let's say they're running and there's a pop fly. And like the thing that I'm trying to drill into them was, hey, just if there's only 1 or 2 outs, freeze on a pop fly, stay on the base and then tag up and go. Like just stay on your base. And so the pop fly in a game and I go, freeze. And all the kids, like including the kids on the other team, stop. And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. No, I only meant that for mine. I'm so sorry.
I never should have used the voice on all of you.
Yeah. And so I think that when I came out with like that kind of confidence that because I'm already like, it's worked so many times in my past. I'm just out there like, this is my weapon. And I was like, hey, slow down. Like it came at it with such authority that I think that maybe even there's still like that element of kidness was in them. Then they were like, oh, the adult says slow down. We should slow down.
Right. Even if they're like 24 years old, they see you coming out of the house and they're like, oh shit, he owns a house. I wonder if he's a principal. Everybody cool it.
He might be my dad's boss. Yeah. So, okay. So
if he asks us our name, we have to tell him.
We talk a lot about how our white privilege and everything. I imagine you got this too. I was hassled by cops all the time when I was young. Like just being a kid meant that you were hassled by them a lot. And like
certainly
they would pull you over for being young. Like I would have my license plate light out a lot. But that was never the case. Like they'd be like, on closer inspection, you do seem to have a license plate light. It's just a little dimmer than most. Let me have your license and registration.
Yeah.
And then
go ahead. Fully searched my car when my brother David and I got pulled over years ago doing like an incredibly wholesome thing. And again, like even this story where we're hassled and they conduct an illegal search of my car with no cause. Even then, I'm very aware that could have gotten much worse and has gotten much worse for people who don't look like me. But they pulled us over for some kind of nothing, like maybe a month expired insurance, because I was like back from freshman year of college and it was my first time driving my car in a while. I remember the story very clearly now. So I didn't know that my new insurance tags came up because I wasn't living at home.
Oh, your registration tags.
Yeah, whatever I need to stick on my car. And they pulled me over for that. And I was like, oh, I didn't know. This is my first time with the car in months. I haven't been at my home address, so I haven't been getting any mail about the car, but I will do that now. And they just like, we pulled over into a parking lot, so they had time. They weren't blocking traffic. They were bored. And we were like very easy to fuck with teens, my brother and me. And like we were as indignant as O'Brien boys are with the police, and they were still like, just like, you guys have any fun tonight? Like, no, we just dropped my friend off at her house. We were having coffee. Yeah, you go to any parties? No, I gave the information, and they were asking about what was in the backseat of my car. It happened to be a souvenir that my friend had given me from Ecuador, just like a little like
a gun,
like
souvenir gun,
just like a pound of cocaine, because she knows I love it. No, some little like noise making tiny drum thing. And they're like, what's that in your back seat? And they went and they like opened the back doors. I didn't know at the time that wasn't something that cops could do. So I didn't like yell at them or tell them they're not allowed to do that. And they just like went and started like rifling through my CD wallet and like picking through the seats to see if they could find anything that like, I'm sure they were disappointed by how lame we were in real life, that they see.
Yeah, it's gotta be such a bummer.
Shaggy-haired teens who are driving together at night, and they're like, I mean, there must be something in the car they're not allowed to have. And they're like, fuck no, this really is like a souvenir from Ecuador. What a loser. They don't have doesn't even smell like weed in here. It smells like coffee. These kids are doing the wrong thing.
I think it makes them mad, honestly.
Yeah.
I think they're not like, I think that they don't think you're a dork or anything. I think they genuinely get more angry when you don't have something wrong.
Right, because I mean, like, part of what your pride as a cop needs to, I mean, you're so prideful as it is, part of what your filthy pride needs to be based on is you've uncritically bought into this myth that you have an above average ability to spot crime and criminals.
Right.
And when that doesn't bear out, as I imagine it doesn't more than it does, you get very annoyed and you think, surely this criminal is fooling me. Surely I'm not, my crime dar is not poorly calibrated. Surely this 18-year-old is a super thief.
Yeah, where like my gut told me. And so there's just something that my eyes are missing because my gut knows.
Right. I went to cop school and the cop school told me that my gut is right. That's why I don't think about all that stuff I did.
Whoa, I really hope cops don't listen to this because we have not been kind.
What are they going to do? Oh, we're going to be on the lookout for someone in New Jersey. Where's my fucking license plate, piggies? You can't find me.
I don't exist. I'm a fucking ghost. Well, speaking of our childhoods, Dan, I do. If you're up for starting the show now, at 30 minutes,
I'm really fired up, honestly.
I want to ask you a question about your childhood. Is that okay?
Yeah, all right.
Okay. Quick question. What's something that you weren't allowed to do when you were a kid, and now you do all of the time? Maybe it was like even arbitrarily that you weren't allowed to do it when you were young, and now you do it constantly, partially because you weren't allowed to do it as a kid. I'll go first.
Sure.
I jump. I'm big into jumping. You know this about me.
Yeah. It's occupied more airspace on the podcast than I think anyone ever saw coming. Right. Yes. Yeah. Air, like jumping. Excellent.
I jump to touch anything. If I'm in a hallway, I'm going to jump to touch to see if I can touch the ceiling. If I'm walking underneath in a parking garage and there's like a pipe, I'm like, I'll bet I could touch that pipe. I do this thing where I jump and do a little 360 in the air. A lot. Jumping is a big part of who I am. And
yes,
and continues to be. Even my kids who are also can't keep their body still will be like, Dad, why did you just jump? Oh man, I want to see if I can kick off that wall and see how high I could get.
Dad, where are you getting this energy from? You have to go to bed. You're keeping me up.
So I don't know if this is like a log cabin thing or if this is something you had to deal with when you were a kid. I was not allowed to jump in the house. We had like a very specific no jumping policy. And it happened. And we had to create the policy because when I would walk through doorways, I would try and touch the top beam every single time. It was like I was just small enough that it was like really out of reach and I wanted to touch it really badly and I knew which ones were higher than others. And I would, every time I came through a hall, I'd jump up and try and touch it. And my dad would be like, the floorboards can't take it. Like you can't keep jumping in the house. And if I was in my room and I did some
you think we're made of joists in this family?
I remember as a child jumping in my room a bunch. I don't think there was like a game to it or anything. I was just jumping. And my dad was like, led me downstairs by the hand to my brother's room, which was right below mine. And he's like, look at the bed. Look. And there was like sawdust all over the bed. And he's like, every time you're jumping, you're knocking the shit down. And so there was like everywhere in the house was made of glass or something. Like it was so fragile and I was not allowed to jump in it. And I couldn't stop myself. When I was real young, I occasionally did things that got me spanked. But as I got older, like even past like 8, I was not getting spanked anymore. And the only time my dad threatened to spank me was when I couldn't stop. And I just like went through a room, jumped up and tried to touch the beam. And my dad came and grabbed me and he's like, you do that again and I'm going to spank you. And I was like, okay, I'm really trying, man. I'm going to try. And now that I live in my own house, which is, I guess, made of stronger wood, I jump like fucking crazy. I jump at work. I jump in my house. I jump in elevators. And my kids are allowed to jump anywhere they want. I know a lot of people are like, you kids cannot jump on the bed. Don't let your kids jump on the couch. I let my kids jump on fucking anything. Like the whole house is their jungle gym. And it's mine too, to be fair. And I love it. I don't ever want them to have to deal with that where they have to stifle their jumping.
I have so much to say. I wish I had taken notes. I'm trying to keep an index in my brain because for starters, you saying that there was a no jumping rule in your house is the funniest fucking, it's so funny that I didn't even laugh at it. I just like, I got mad as a comedy writer as like, God, that's such a rich character text. That's one of those very dense throwaway 30 Rock details like Kenneth Parcell is. I come from a no jumping county. We were not allowed. As just like yet another detail in the bucket of weird character details. The fact that you said, I don't know if this is a log cabin thing or not, but we had a no jumping policy. And I know like very clearly that this is not only is it not a normal childhood thing, I don't think it's a log cabin thing either. I think you were the only family with a no jumping policy.
Wait,
I
you were
think
allowed to just treat your house like a jungle gym? Like you could just jump around in it?
No one was jumping enough for paperwork to ever get started on this issue.
Okay. All right.
We were not allowed to like we would jump on the bed every once in a while and like, hey, knock it off. Don't jump on the bed so much. But it was never enough of a problem that like there needed to be like an actual all hands to discuss the do's and don'ts and when it's okay to jump. That's like a whole system of laws that was built because of you in your household.
I remember specifically as a kid when my
Just your
parents
poor parents meeting up with other parents like, what do you guys do to keep your kids from jumping?
What?
All the time.
Yeah.
Because we're thinking of like putting spikes on our couches the way they do to keep homeless people from sleeping on benches, but we don't know like where do we sit then? That's the problem that we're coming up against. And the other families are like, what are you talking about?
I remember vividly my parents the first time they were like, you don't need a babysitter. We're going to go to the movies and you are going to be home alone. And the first thought in my head was, I'm going to jump.
Well, that touches on the other thing that I wanted to bring up about this, because the question was, what is something that you were not allowed to do as a child that you do all the time now? It doesn't sound like you didn't jump.
I had a real
It
hard
sounds
time.
like you jumped a lot.
When I was with them, and we would be out, and I would get in trouble for it, jumping downstairs and stuff. Like my parents would be like, "Stop jumping," and so I felt very stifled as a kid and didn't understand the rule. I was like, "It's a dumb rule. When they're not here, I'm going to be doing it." And that was part of the reason why I struggled so much with not doing it when I was with them, because the habit was already formed. But it was everywhere that I was with my parents. It was like, you're not allowed to jump. And so jumping became like this fixation for me.
Right. I know that. And longtime listeners, I don't have to go too far back to hear stories about you jumping, because I think it was just a couple weeks ago that you were talking about
I started doing legs again.
Doing legs again so you could jump more.
Yeah.
While your upper body withers away and you just become all trunk. But another story that I'm sure our listeners are screaming about right now is, refresh my memory, was it your first date with your wife or your first date with someone else where you broke your ankle jumping down the stairs?
My first date with my wife, I broke an ankle and sprained the other one.
So between your parents and messages sent by God, you've been warned about jumping.
Yeah.
And it hasn't taken.
No, I continue to. Jumping someday I'll die jumping. That will be a life well lived. If you can remember this, because I probably won't write it down. Just make sure that when I die, that my tombstone says "died jumping."
Okay, absolutely.
He died as he lived.
Yeah,
jumping in the air.
This is so. You're such a precious creature. It's so. You were a competitive international trampolinist in college.
Yeah.
You're just. That's such a singular focus. Jumping on sandwiches. I can't believe you're a real person.
Objectively, a really boring person. But I mean, given like where I grew up and everything, like you'd think I'd be so interesting. Instead, my life is focused exclusively on finding the place with the best turkey sandwich and how high I can get when I go there, like how much jumping I can do.
Oh, God bless. I love it.
I don't know what it is, and like I'm still. Even my coworkers like, what the fuck was that? Because I'll think I'm alone in the hallway and I'm gonna have a little jump and touch something up high, and they'll be like, someone down the hallway, stop, let me catch up to you. Hold on, what was that? I was just having a jump.
Are you mad at me? No, I mean, I'm not. No one's allowed to be mad at you anymore.
Not allowed to be mad at me. I like the sound of that.
So your kids are allowed to jump
Shit.
everywhere on everything.
Yeah.
Is that exciting to them?
Yes.
They're big jumpers? Okay.
Yeah, it's like the pendulum has swung in the other direction. They will jump off of bunk beds. Like they're gonna jump like crazy, and to the point where like I've seen them come down really hard, come down and like hit themselves in their chest with their knees, and their wind gets knocked out of them. And like they used to that look of panic when they can't breathe and stuff. And I was like, oh, I wonder if that'll stop them from jumping. And no, they're undeterred as well.
Okay.
They both caught it.
Great. I guess that's great. I don't know. It's a different world.
It's surprising. I don't know why. I guess, yeah.
Climbing makes a lot more sense to me than jumping. We were climbers for sure. And there was always like, I want to climb that tree. I want to climb that statue. We would try to, not like little kids. We were older, would try to find different ways to run up the wall and climb onto the roof of the elementary school that was down the block from where we grew up. So we were obviously out of elementary school at that time. I want to say this is all middle and high school and like well enough into college that it was unacceptable. But we were always like trying to work up speed to run up the wall as many steps as we could and then like grab onto a windowsill and pull ourselves up on that and then try to shimmy up a corner, up like 2 storm drains if you could, any way we could to get on that roof, and we weren't very successful. Occasionally we would get up there and be like, wow, it's filthy.
Yeah.
And then we would come down.
Climbing was certainly important, especially, so my house was an old log cabin, so it has like splits in the wood and stuff, so you could climb up the sides of the house. And like the insides, like the inside walls, like you could climb as high as you wanted. And that was only in service of feeling how high I was and being like, wow, imagine if I could jump this high. And then also jumping off of it. Jumping off of it was a big part of it too.
That's really, really, that's really special, man.
I think now it's like coming back to me that my parents got me a trampoline when I was like 10. And I spent, from that point on, I spent all my time there. Like I would sleep on it and I'd be outside on it all the time. I'm wondering if that was related to them thinking I might have ADD because I was jumping around all the time. And them being like, well, we could put him on medication or we could try this. And they did the trampoline. Like I do my homework on it and stuff. Like I just lived on this thing. And
did other people get you? Because like I've got the nieces and nephews where the standing orders for birthday and Christmas, it's very simple to get presents because there's always like a thing that they're into. So it's like it's Super Mario or it's Sonic the Hedgehog. And it's like, just get them something connected to this. Did you have relatives that had to be told like, yeah, it's another season. He's really into jumping. So like, anything you see at Kohl's that is like jump pants or jump shoes, a jump book would be great. We would love to get him reading.
No, because none of that shit exists.
Right.
Jumping is so singular. No, I'm a little bit with snowboarding and skiing because it was important that I got a lot of air snowboarding and skiing too. So occasionally they'd be like, all right, well, what are you into this year? What do you want? New bindings? Okay, we'll ask for that. But no, other than that, it was like...
We can't tell your grandma jumping. We have to tell her something else.
That's the beauty of jumping, Dan. It's such a free thing. Anyone can do it. It's for everybody. Jumping's for everyone, except for me when I was young, because I was against the law. So sorry, that took a long time. Do you have something from your childhood that you weren't allowed to do?
I do. Mine is just is way more boring and way more obvious. Is I was not allowed to swear as a kid, and like no kids really are allowed to swear. I learned growing up. My parent we were just raised not to, and at one point And like I definitely wanted to, but it was against the rules, so I wouldn't do it. And one time I asked my mom when she was allowed to start cursing, and she was like, I guess college. I guess when I went away to college,
Bullshit.
I came back from college, and then I started cursing, and my parents wouldn't get mad at me if I cursed after college. And at whatever young age I was told that, I really intuited it and took it to heart and was like, got it. Do not swear unless you're doing a play. Don't swear until college. And then I just didn't. I was just not a person who swore or cursed. And like some of my friends would make fun of me for it until they were like, well, this is just who he is. He says heck and darn and freaking and sucks. And that's like the peak of his cursing. And there were even like when people who weren't very friendly with me and like caught this tick where like, who's this? Why is he saying what the heck? What's going on? And I would confide to them. I was like, yeah, I mean, it stinks, but my parents say I'm not allowed to curse. And these other 12-year-olds would be like, yeah, mine do too, but they're not fucking here, you idiot. None of us are allowed to. But it's what we do. Shit. What do you mean you're not allowed?
My parents aren't cutting here.
I was just not a foul-mouthed person because it was against the rules, and then really took to it in college enough that like I swear way more than I want to, than I think is acceptable in polite society, and I think probably a surprising thing from anyone who's been reading my writing for the last 15 years, however long I've been doing this, that there's never been a time in my life that I was writing in an even PG-13 voice, with the exception of the children's book adaptation of the President's book that I wrote. Everything has been more F-bombs than are allowed in a PG-13 rated movie. That's just been the way that I've talked. I think probably because it was denied for so long. I'm like that high school star quarterback who wasn't allowed to do anything, and then as soon as he got to college and was allowed to take a drug, took all the drugs and destroyed his life. That was me with swearing, where I wasn't allowed to swear, and then suddenly, as soon as I had permission to, the floodgates opened, and it's impossible to close them.
Can I give you? I want to give you a little compliment here, Dan. You, in your writing, and also when you're like telling a story, your swearing is really effective. Like you are aware of your swearing. Like you know when to use it really, and like when it's going to be the most useful. And I don't think a lot of people do. I think because a lot of people grew up with it, it's just like another part of their language. And so like they just use it. They use it as basically in place of a like. It's like a crutch for them.
Yeah.
And you, because you think about swearing and because it's I think maybe so exciting for you, it's such like an indulgence that you are aware of when you swear and you use it when it's going to be like the most effective. And that's pretty cool.
It is super cool. That's very kind of you to say. I don't believe you. I certainly don't think I was always like that. The Jersey is shorthand for saying fucking in place of as like a placeholder while you're thinking of something. It was like, oh, he was down the street at fucking Romeo's pizza place. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of thing. And that became such a seamless part of my idiolect at a certain point that I think I've mostly gotten rid of that with age, but I'm still much fouler than I'd like to be.
That's a surprise. I'm surprised to hear that. You do. It seems like it's always very intentional when you do swear. I guess maybe not. Maybe I'll listen for it from now on. I don't know. I rarely listen to you. It's hard to say. I want to tell you that my daughter swears.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. My son never caught on. Like I will use swear words when I'm trying to be serious with him. Sometimes I will swear. Like when he's doing something, I'm like, you got to cut out all this other shit. Like I'll use a word that he doesn't know. So it's like, oh, I should be listening. So I do swear in front of them sometimes. He's never gotten the bug. He's not into it. He doesn't care about it. But my daughter, immediately, when a new word came out and it sounded like it was an angry word, she was like, I'll take that from my arsenal. But she's not a good talker yet. So it's like, I can't just, it's when she swears, it's the funniest thing in the world. Because she will say, she doesn't get it right. She, a lot of times when she's angry and frustrated, she wants to say, God damn it. Because we do. And we say it to ourselves when we're really frustrated. But she says, God jammick. And I can't bring myself to be like, no, that's a bad word. Please don't say that. I'm like, yeah, God jammick. Absolutely. That's a good one. That feels good to say, doesn't it?
It is something that I've thought about with kids and raising kids, because I don't, as an older person now, and with the existence of the internet and like standards and practice codes changing across television in our lifetimes, I don't understand the exact value of raising your kids not to curse. I mean, there are certain, obviously, like, you shouldn't call this person this name, like that, because that's a very mean thing to say to a person. You should never
but
speak
like
with
a
hate.
victimless swear.
Right. Yeah. There's not like damn hell ass shit that were only powerful to me because I wasn't allowed to say them and adults were allowed to say them. I don't know why we're walking around not letting, why the rules were in place when I was a kid that you were just not supposed to swear in polite society in front of adults and in school, but you could when you were older. Like, I don't know why those rules were in place. I don't know if they still are now, or if kids are expected to be more adult these days.
From my own perspective, and again, I only have a almost 4-year-old and an 8-year-old. The only reason that we try to teach our kids not to swear in public is because it reflects poorly on our family. Like, it's almost always about how it reflects on the parent. It's like, if my kid is at school swearing, that doesn't look like the home life is very good. It's like something is wrong at home. That's a red flag.
Right.
And so I don't give a shit if he swears. He can swear, but he has not picked it up. It has never been an issue. I don't care if she swears. In fact, I really enjoy it. But if she were to do it in public, I would be embarrassed.
Yeah. What if, how would it reflect on the family if you guys were out somewhere and you saw someone littering and then Ronan said, look, a scofflaw. Is that more embarrassing to your family that the other parents are walking by like, these motherfuckers say scofflaw at home? What books are they reading?
I think they're on par with each other. I think.
What weird colonial literature are they teaching their kids?
That should be a bad word. Whatever that kid just said, that's the new bad word. That was disgusting. Obscene. Yeah, I think I'd be embarrassed if my son called someone a scofflaw.
Gets detention, and the teachers are like, we don't know what it meant. It sounded kind of dirty, but we not. He's not allowed to say it anymore. He's not allowed.
The way the S rolled right into a hard C, there was something weird about it. Yeah.
He certainly said it with a lot of venom. He really meant it.
Well, I think we should end it there.
Okay.
We came full circle, didn't we?
Yeah. Like every episode of this podcast. Oh, speaking of circles and closure, I also earlier I said that you used the voice. That is a reference to Dune. I've mentioned in the last podcast that I was not into that movie, and I think everyone's wrong. I've since seen Dune 2.
Yeah.
Soren, it fucking rocks.
Oh,
it's
really?
awesome. Go see it. It rules.
Okay. All right. After we talked, I did watch Dune 1, and I was into it.
Man,
I really enjoyed it, but I was like, that's it? By the end.
I still think I'm right. I still think Dune 1 is not good, but Dune 2 just fucking rips. It's awesome.
Well, you can follow Daniel or me on Blue Sky. Daniel posts maybe like once a week. It's great. He saves them up, is what I'm saying. He's like, he only puts out the bangers. and whereas me, I'm more of like a throw everything at the wall and see what sticks kind of guy. One time I got 30 likes over at Blue Sky. I think that's everyone there. I think everyone on the site was like, okay, we'll agree this is a good one. You can email us at QQ with Soren and Daniel at gmail.com. You can follow. No, you can't. You can't follow. You can, we have a sound engineer, producer, a editor in Gabe Harder, and you won't find him anywhere. He is a man with no license plates on him. And
Hell yeah.
you can follow or you can donate to our Patreon. Nobody's doing this. Don't worry about this part. Patreon/Quick Question. If you like our theme song, though, you can go check out that band. That's Me Rex. You can find their music anywhere you listen to your music, or you can go to merex.bandcamp.com for their full albums. And you can watch a couple of these old episodes of old Daniel and really old Soren on YouTube at YouTube/@QQ Podcast.
All right.
Okay, bye.
All right.
I've got a quick question for you, alright? I wanna hear your thoughts, I wanna know what's on your mind. I've got a quick question for you, alright? The answer's not important, I'm just glad that we could talk tonight. So what's your favourite? How did you get? When will I be remembered? Was it ever? Where did all the guys know? Oh, forget it. Soren, Bowie, Daniel O'Brien. Two best friends and comedy writers. If there's an answer, they're gonna find it. I think you'll have a great time here. I think you'll have a great time here.